Did you ever buy tarot cards, come home, use a couple of times, and then you're like, what was I thinking? I don't even connect with it. And then you toss it inside or throw them on the shelf like this. I'll show you how to select the cards better so you don't do the same mistake as me. I also wanted to share with you 2 tarot card decks that I've been using for over 15 years and stayed with me that long. And last, I wanted to share with you what I do with the cards that I don't use. One tip, when you use tarot cards, you want to make sure they have different emotions, not just all happy and not just all sad, but you need a whole full spectrum of emotions because that's what life's about. Remember this one time, I bought this deck that I guess a lot of people like because of the pictures. They're really nice. Sometimes we think that because we connect to the artwork that we connect to the cards, but not necessarily. Some tarot cards are made by certain people and we don't like the people that made them. Maybe like the Thoth Deck, for example. The Thoth Deck was created by Aleister Crowley, and a lot of people say, oh, Aleister Crowley was a certain way and all this stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're going to use those cards, it's going to make you like that person or that your energy will vibrate at that frequency, because you are your own person. So when you look at the cards, you want to see almost like a soap opera played out, where each card has a story. The first thing to do is find cards with a full spectrum of emotions. And the second thing is make sure each card you can tap into and see a storyline. Because when you see that, the emotions and everything will play out in different times of different questions. The third one is like imagination. Because imagination is actually the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious mind. We already know our answers, but the imagination is what's going to help us to tap into that. And so when you look at the card, you have to be able to look at the picture and say, I can see this cat talking. I can see it like walking around. I can see it talking to its family and its friends or climbing the tree or whatever it is. I can see it turning around and I can even imagine it saying something to me. And that's the one thing you want. If it says something to you, you're going to hear it. You might not hear it through here, but you're going to hear it inside. You can imagine it. And that's the main thing, is you want to be able to imagine that part, because that's what's going to trigger your subconscious and conscious mind to meet together and have that self-awareness. Or what you want to say is awareness of that intuition. When you also choose the deck, you want to make sure that you can see the lessons in the cards. So there's always a spiritual lesson or a learning thing, something that the person can take with them and understand why certain things happen. If you can see the lesson in each card, then that's also another reason why you should have that deck. Also for the synchronicity of things. If you can see a synchronicity of why these events took place, a synchronicity to the story in that card, that's another reason why that card might be for you. Now this next one is personally for me. I don't like tarot cards or oracle cards with too much labels or too much words. So like if it says something like, you're beginning a new journey. Like sometimes for me, if I don't have words on there, it's better. Because sometimes when I see words, that's the first thing I go to and I look at, and then it messes me all up. So I'd rather just not see any kind of words and just go straight for the pictures and then just go with how I feel. Everyone's different. This is just, for my opinion, it's easier because sometimes it's kind of like the card is already labeled, you know, like you're already looking at it and you're already saying this is what it is. But if you can go into the picture, kind of ignore the words or get a deck without so many words printed on the card, then at least you can get the chance to go in and get the feelings and the specifics before even looking at the words, because then you get more intuitive information. 2 tarot card decks that I stuck with for over 15 years. One is called the Thoth Deck, and yes, it's the one I was talking about in the beginning, the Aleister Crowley one. So anyway, yeah, I went through a lot with that one because some people were telling me like, oh, this is bad. They're trying to like take my tarot cards and throw it away, thinking that I was going to turn into this weird, crazy person. But did I? Anyway, so it just goes to show that no matter who created the tarot deck, It doesn't matter. What matters is if you can connect with it, you can read it, you have the feelings and emotions, and you're a good person, and you're trying your best to help people. It's not going to turn out dark, and it's not going to be like the person that made the deck. You are your own unique person. So with that said, choose a deck for you, not because somebody else is telling you that it's good or bad. With the Thoth Deck, I would really see pictures move, like literally see pictures move on the card. And it's funny because I would look at the card and I would actually see the lines moving and the heads turning and looking at me and talking to me. And it was all in my head, but at the same time, it was so strong. It was very effortless, and that's why I stuck with it all these years. It's one of my go-to decks. So it's the one that I always go back to. Even if I get new decks, even if I try other stuff, I always go back to those. The second one is the Moon Garden deck. So the Moon Garden Tarot, I don't know when it came out, but I had that for over 15 years. When I first started doing readings, I was using that deck, and a lot of psychics gave me crap for it. They were like, oh, it's too busy. It's too much things going on here. How can you read a deck with all these pictures jumbled up? And I was thinking to myself, why not? I mean, if it connects with you, it connects with you. Some of them didn't realize was that I liked it all jumbled up with all these pictures and distractions, because then every time someone asked me a question, I had something different to tap into. Instead of looking at one solid picture of, for example, a horse. It's like every time I do a reading and somebody asks questions, I'm staring at this horse and I'm looking at the lines, the feeling, and everything else. But the Moon Garden deck, they have so much things going on one card, that if someone asks me a question, I will always get a different answer, because it's so easy to not label the card, which is really great. So I would get a different answer, a different feeling that will match that frequency of that question. And it was a lot easier for me than most. So just because someone tells you, how can you do this? How can you do that? You just got to do it your way. So here's what I do with the tarot cards that I haven't used maybe after 2-3 times, or I didn't feel connection. I keep them. I leave them on these shelves. The reason why is because maybe at one point in your life you will connect with them. Maybe another time in your life you'll pick up that deck and suddenly you will feel stuff from them. Because a lot of times when you evolve, different senses come into play, and then the cards will be easier to read or to pick up feelings. So for example, there are some decks that I couldn't read before because, like I said, it wasn't busy enough. They had only maybe 1 picture or 2 pictures on there, and they didn't even have feelings. But I was using them, but in a different way. But I consider them in my mind as advanced cards, because you're still not using them in the same way as you use your other cards. But it gives you a focal point of something to stare at, so you can go inward and find the answer. And that's something I can explain more to you later, but then later on, it's like you won't need cards, you will use anything. But yeah, when you first start out, you want to choose stuff that is effortless, easy to connect to. I wanted to share this so you don't get discouraged and go to some place and get cards and try to use them and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, how do you use this? But it could be just the cards that you're not connecting with. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. In the comments below, tell me your favorite tarot or oracle deck and why.